In this video, we will discuss the art of revision for CAT preparation. Revision is the art of flexing your brain muscles. We will be discussing on the when, why, how and what of revision in this video. We'll start with why is revision important for an exam like CAT. So the idea is for anybody who studies something on an average, they retain 50% of information at the end of an hour after their studying or the learning part is over, which essentially means they have already forgotten 50% of it in an hour's time. In a day's time, they have forgotten around 70% of whatever they have learned, and in a week's time, they have forgotten essentially 90% of whatever they have learned. If this does not convey how important is revision in any exam preparation for that matter, forget about CAT, then nothing else can explain it to you better than this. So you need revision. Constant revision throughout your CAT preparation phase is very vital because you need to retain information and recollect it at your own beck and call. There is an idea called the reinforcement of your memory. We'll discuss two things. One is how the brain works and how it collects memory and all of that. There are billions of neurons in your brain, and when you create a memory, it is stored somewhere. There's a process for storing, there's a process for identifying, and there's a process for retrieval of information. The retrieval path, whenever it happens, it creates new firing between neurons, which strengthens the retrieval path. So learning is a one-time thing. You learn something, you store it something, but your brain should be able to, among so many millions of memories that everybody has, your brain should be capable of going back to that right memory and bringing it out, which is more like having a flimsy bridge at the beginning. The more number of times you try and recollect an idea, the more number of times you go back to that idea and revise that idea, new neural pathways are formed, which is equivalent of strengthening that flimsy bridge into a strong super concrete bridge. So the stronger your bridge is, easier it is for your retrieval of information. So you need to remember an idea, maybe a formula, whatever be it. The stronger the bridge is, the easier it is for you to recollect that information as and when you want to, especially in a pressure setting like CAT exam. Usually people make this mistake of underestimating the power of revision. Lot of people crib about they are not being able to recollect one idea, or they say, hey, I've learnt everything in geometry, but I don't know how to, when I go into a mock, I'm not able to. Outside standalone, I am definitely able to solve any question that I've been given, but inside a mock, I'm not able to solve. Why is that? That is about the pressure. Also about you being able to retrieve the right idea at that right time, which I think is very dependent on how well you have revised ideas. So do not underestimate the power of revision at all. How do I strategize my revision for CAT preparation? So there are two ways to revise. One is when you're learning, one is when you're actually revising. How do you revise when you're learning? You take an idea, let's say percentages, you're learning the idea of percentages for 2 days. Let's say today 1 hour and tomorrow 1 hour, right? Day after tomorrow or 2 days later, you should spend at least half an hour, 45 minutes revising the idea of percentages, maybe practicing lots of questions so that you can reinforce and recollect the idea as well. Also, the other part of revision is, let's say 3 weeks from now, you're done with percentages, profit and loss, averages, linear quadratic and time speed distance. How do you go about revision? So do you start off with your races idea, or do you keep revising this? You have to do both. So you need to take a break from your learning once in a while and then revise all the ideas that you have learnt in the past and recollect and reinforce. You should also continue your revision on any new topic that you learn at that point of time as well. So revision is not you stop learning, you completely revise and then you go back to only learning. It's not standalone, but it's an involved process that says you need to learn also, you need to practice and revise also at the same point of time. So remember that. I'll give you some numbers to work with. Let's say you start with 80% of time in learning something. You'll spend 20% of your time in revising that idea. Like as and when the time progresses, you will be learning for 50% of your time and revising for 50% of your time at the end of your preparation or in the beginning of your mocks, and even through your mock phase, you will be learning for probably 20% of your time, probably even lesser than that, and 80+% will go into revision. So you will run out of topics to learn new, but you will have so many topics that you need to continuously keep reinforcing, remembering and revising. I think that is very vital. So have these numbers more like a guideline, but make sure you revise aggressively for this exam. In the example that I quoted about revision, I've talked about how do you revise for quants. How do you revise for the verbal section? You keep reading a lot. That is imperative. It goes without saying. You also go back to your marks. You take your marks. You see you have weak areas, strong areas. You fix those areas in the verbal section. You also go back once in a while to ideas, the basics, where you say, hey, if it is a though or an although, most likely this sentence is not the opening sentence. So you go back to ideas that will help you work better with specific ideas like sentence rearrangement or paragraph completion. So you keep revising those pointers so that after a while it becomes second nature to you. So that is how you revise. So even without realizing, these are the three pointers that I'm looking for while I'm solving a sentence rearrangement. Naturally, subconsciously, you are going through those three without knowing that you're going through those three ideas, but you're solving the question in a correct way. So remember, in the verbal section, that is how you revise. Next, we look at how do you revise for the DILR section. Practice a lot. Practice is equivalent of revision in the DILR section. The more you go back and solve questions again and again, the better it is for you. The best place to start, as we keep telling again and again, is CAT 17 and CAT 18 paper. Go to those papers, keep solving those same question again and again. It has lot of value you can take from practicing those questions. So that is how you revise for these three sections in this exam. So we'll also now look at a monthly revision plan. How do you strategize your learning versus revision? How do you plan that? First, we'll look at the months of July and August. You're tentatively looking at 80% of time spent in learning and 20% of time spent in revision. For the month of September, you're looking at 50-50. So you're learning halfway there, but the remaining time you're continuously revising, because 2 months prior to that you have learned a lot of ideas. You can't not revise all those ideas that you have learned in the first 2 months. So you need to spend a lot more time during September in terms of revising. In October, you are tentatively looking at a 20-80. So you learn for 20% of your time, and then you are looking to revise a lot of ideas that you have learned in the past 3 months. So you are revising for 80% of the time. Any time that you are not doing your mocks or analyzing your mocks, you are essentially revising. But there is some amount of scope still for learning in October. In November, essentially, you should be looking to not learn anything new, which is why you say around 1 and 99 is the split up for learning versus revision. Essentially saying you should only be revising throughout whenever you're not giving a mock. So this is the tentative timeline month-wise breakup and how you should be revising across these months. When should I begin my revision? Is there a time to start my revision? I can tell you, today is the time to start your revision. Your revision has to happen simultaneously with your learning, and that is very, very, very vital for getting a fantastic score in the CAT exam. Best wishes for CAT prep. We are adding at least a video every week on CAT prep. So if you like the content that we provide, give us a like on this video. Also, make sure you don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned.